Welcome to the Project Management Happy Hour. Our aim is to share frank and honest discussion about real-world issues in project management, but do it in a way that's not too dry, though it might get a bit salty sometimes.
Top Shelf Replay, Trust Bricks, the playbook for building resilient relationships.
Welcome to the last PM Happy Hour episode of the year, Kim.
2025 is finally almost over.
Ooh, has it felt like a long year for you?
It's felt like 10 years, I think.
Okay. I think it was a good year for me. So our lovely listeners, I hope it's been a good year for you. And the membership, we're talking about reflecting back on the year. It's sort of that year-end time. Get ready to write your year-end reviews, get your review in. I hope that you reflect on a success that you've had this year. It's something we're talking about over the membership and how to apply those strengths that you've got to the rest of the year. Just a good exercise to do. But Kim and I were thinking about on what's like a good, fun, nice way to close. And we want to reintroduce you to Trust Bricks. For our listeners who've been listening diehard since the beginning, you're probably familiar with this, but it's something that Kim and I talk about all the time, building Trust Bricks. And there are many listeners that may have never heard this episode. So we were like, hey guys, let's all get on the same page about WTF is a Trust Brick and where can we learn more about this? So today we are going to play for you an original episode that is quite short from this originally aired in 2018, I think.
It was one of our early ones, yeah.
So this episode originally aired in 2018, and it's not too long. I do apologize. My voice is a bit tinny. I think that the difference from now to what it's going to sound like then is quite different, but it's not very long. It's I think we're under 8 minutes for that. So it'll be over quickly if you hate it. But we're going to take you through what a Trust Brick is and then talk about what we've learned since then, including new places that Kim took the Trust Brick concept to.
I took it on a journey, all my bricks.
Yes. Pack them into your sleigh.
I did. I packed them into my sleigh and took them for a ride.
Woo! Awesome. We'll play the original episode and we'll see you in just a moment.
So for today's appetizers, we want to focus on a technique for building trust. Now, Kate, why on earth would we want to build trust?
Well, I think it's important to touch on who we want to build trust with. And I would pick your team members first and foremost because you are super stuck with them and you need them to trust you.
That's true. And I'd also focus on those who are counting on you on the outside, your stakeholders and your sponsors, because they're trusting you to do the project, get it done for them. Now, Kate, from your perspective, why is it important to build trust with your team?
If I had to pick 3 reasons why, it would be 1, so that they tell you the truth whenever you're working with them, when you're solving a problem or figuring out a root cause or trying to find a solution. 2, so that they give you accurate estimates instead of overly highballing it because they're afraid that you're just going to cut it in half for no reason. Or 3, so that whenever you have hard conversations with them over any type of confrontation, that they trust that you're on the same side. Kim, why do you think it's important to build trust with your sponsors and stakeholders?
Well, I think it makes for a more productive workplace for sure, and a better life. Who wants to work somewhere that nobody trusts or respects you to get things done? I guess pragmatically for your project, it makes it easier to get things done if people trust you. Also, it helps build a long-term relationship, which is really important because whether you are delivering a project for your customer or you're delivering a project internally for your own organization, it's probably not going to be your first project with these people. And so you can build that trust that's going to help you with future project delivery. If you don't have trust, then it feels like you have to fight for every inch that you make progress on your project. Because you have to prove yourself and you have to build support for every single thing that you do. And from a long-term perspective, if you don't have trust of your sponsor and stakeholders, then you're probably going to lose out on the opportunity to do a lot of cool things in the future and future projects.
So then if we were to get meta for a second, could you talk about what trust is?
If we knock it down to its most simple components, I would say trust is predictability. You're trusting somebody to do something because you expect them to do it. And you do that because you have the expectation that they're going to do something again in the future, probably based on their consistency in delivering that in the past. You can trust somebody to deliver well because over and over they've delivered well in the past, or you can trust somebody to fail because they failed over and over in the past. And hopefully you're in the former rather than the latter category. The way I like to describe it for project managers in my coaching and training sessions is that when you try to build trust with your stakeholder and your team, think of it like building a brick building. Trust and credibility must be built one small trust brick at a time. And it starts with small steps like being on time for meetings, providing deliverables when you say you will, and even simply providing a professional appearance time after time after time. As the project progresses, and there will be bigger bricks, larger project and program deliverables that have more weight, you have to deliver those on time and as committed, of course, but also don't ever let up on the small bricks. So instead of focusing on giant leaps of faith, trust me as I do this one massive thing, keep developing trust using baby steps of faith as well. And when you progressively build trust in this way, you're setting and confirming the expectation in your stakeholders' minds that you are going to do what you say you are. The cornerstone of trust and credibility, it's predictability. If I've delivered 100 things, even if they're small things, on time and correctly, then naturally your audience is going to expect you to deliver the next 5, 10, or 100 things on time and with quality.
And so then for every action that you complete in line with what they hope you do, then that trust brick is building. Is it building a house? Are we building a bridge? Are we building a wall? Where do you imagine the bricks go?
We're building the palace of trust.
the brick palace of trust.
The brick palace of trust. And I really like the idea of brick is another brick, because what happens inevitably is as things go wrong, if you or your project hit issues or fall short, a deliverable slips, the structure is not going to fail if one trust brick breaks. You might break 1 or 2 bricks, but when there are 100 or 1,000 other bricks still holding steady in that wall and they're solid in your customer's mind, then 1 or 2 missed expectations will likely be seen as an exception to the rule, to this huge history that you've built of professionalism than a trend.
I love that metaphor. That's a really beautiful visual way to put that all together, especially because, if one brick falters, right, the whole structural integrity doesn't fall down. I would just add to what you said there, and just to really drive home the point and make it really basic, make sure the first things you commit to delivering to your new team or sponsor, you keep that commitment. For example, if you have a project kickoff and promise to send out the notes in 24 hours, send out the notes in 24 hours. If you have a slide you promised to sponsor for the first time, make it your top priority to get them that slide. If you have a team member that you promised you wouldn't shrink their work estimates, do not shrink their work estimates. It's the small, repeated actions over and over that create trust. And you can start off strong by focusing on those small first steps. And even if your team member gives you it's going to take me a week to do this, and it won't, keep it a week. That act builds trust. And then next time you talk to them and they say, it's going to take a week again, you can say, let's talk about this because I kept it a week last time and then you did it in 2 days. Would it be reasonable if I put this estimate as 3 to bring us into a more realistic schedule? And then they can have a conversation with you about that. I just really feel strongly about the work estimate stuff. But let's say you come into a project and trust is broken. Kim, what do you do if there's just broken bricks everywhere?
The shattered bricks everywhere.
The shattered palace.
Oh. Well, depending on the cause of the broken trust, the same approach of using trust bricks can also help rebuild credibility once the source of the broken trust is addressed. So we talked through a really good scenario of this on the previous episode when we talked about breaking bad news. So if you haven't listened to that one, go check that one out.
So it's like you're sifting through the bricks trying to figure out which keystone brick was broken, whatever that action was, and delivering on that thing that was broken that meant a lot to your team members or your sponsors.
Right. And when they don't trust you, it's going to be hard to get them to trust you to let me build this big brick for you or this big section of the wall for you. And they may not trust you. Mm-hmm. So that's fine. Just start small, little bricks, meeting minutes, presentations. Let me do part of the deliverable and sit with you and walk through it with you to make sure that you start to have confidence that we're going to do the right thing. So break that that one section down into small bricks and just build it that way, one little bit at a time.
Nice.
The lesson here is sweat the small commitments. If you're not in a habit of delivering on the small things, how on earth is anybody supposed to trust you to deliver the big important things?
Mic drop, my friend. Mic drop.
That might break my mic, so I won't actually drop it.
It's too expensive.
As I listened to this episode, one of the things that really stuck out to me as I listened was how much we focused on what we say and then follow through on. And I was reflecting as I heard that about how it's not always the things that you say you're going to do. It's the things that you never made any promises for, but you show up consistently with. If I think about and reflect on my own career, I know that some of the things that have been trust bricks that I didn't know I was trust bricking at the time was like showing up to a meeting and having an agenda, coming to meetings prepared, bringing good ideas, having done research beforehand that nobody asked me to do. You know what I mean? Like there are little ways in which you can just be a great employee, coworker, friend, human being. And they don't require saying something out loud, but if you consistently do them over and over again, people are like, gosh, I can always rely on you to have a great point of view or a well-researched answer. Or I know whenever you bring something to this conversation, you validated it with 4 different people, which, you know, as you move up in your career, they want to say less and less of those things out loud. There's just an expectation that they happen and you keep meeting an expectation. So that was kind of a funny thing. I was like, man, we focused so much on what you say and do, which is huge, right? We just talked about say, do, say, and that is enormous. But I do think that if you're already saying, doing, and saying, then the next part of that builds a lot of bricks is really this consistency in the quality of work that you do. And that was something I felt like we didn't cover.
Yeah, we really did focus more on deliverables,
We did.
like status reports and things like that, and things you say. But yeah, that's a really good insight because it's so true that every time we show up to a meeting on time, you show up prepared. You know, the way you speak, the way you present yourself, you're setting an expectation or you're missing an expectation every single time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I know there's people that I've worked with who might turn in their deliverables like when they say they will, but also, you know, they're kind of a pain the rest of the time. And I was like, man, we really left out this part of it around just showing up and how much that creates trust. And so I think I want to add that. Like if like there are some people who are like, yeah, I can't believe I've been given all these opportunities. But most of those people, especially ones that we've coached, are people who have shown up over and over again. Like I really believe that showing up is half the battle in some of these scenarios. And I know I'm sort of boiling down the expectation you set, but that's how I think I define showing up, like doing what the task calls for. So I that was just like, wow, man, we really kept this so tactical and kind of didn't talk about some of the softer parts of it.
We did it as just a little appetizer, but it could have probably squeezed a whole episode out of it, certainly with what we know now.
Absolutely.
And it's not just showing up, it's how you show up too.
Agreed.
So you can say, I'll get you that deliverable by the end of day today. And then when they go and look in their inbox tomorrow, it arrived at 12:30 at just after midnight. I mean, that's technically you did what you said you would do, but what kind of impression is that leaving? What kind of expectation is that you're setting?
The only thing I would challenge on that is that if somebody's not going to look at it until tomorrow morning, right? It's a reasonable, like if you say, I'll get you that today,
Yeah.
and the other person says, great, or the end of day today, and the other person is like, great, I'll look at that first thing tomorrow morning. In my mind, the only thing that matters is getting it to them before tomorrow morning.
I get it. You still met it, but there's still something to be said for how you met it.
I guess as somebody who's a chronic procrastinator and is like, you didn't need it between, you really didn't even need it until 5 a.m. I delivered is a spicy take from me.
Fair enough.
So I do feel that way about that. But I will agree with maybe because you're like, what impression are you setting? And I am very big on like, if you wanted it that night, you needed to say you wanted it that night. Like, I want to read this before 9 p.m. That's a different deadline. You might get it at, like, if you're like, I want to be reading this by 9 p.m., then you're going to get it potentially from me at 8:59. But I will say, we just did the PMI Global Summit. And so what's on my mind is how many of the people who asked us after we did How to Be the Wolf. They were like, how do I get out of being the wolf? And because they're like, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm kind of tired of it. And I am thinking about how you set that expectation. So here's the other thing, right? Like, let's say that you pulled an all-nighter to get something done and you deliver it at, 3 a.m. They might expect that you'll get it done no matter what, even if that means working until 3
Yeah.
a.m.
So maybe I guess there's that flip side to that. Yeah.
But I think I'm also thinking about I think trust bricks also set expectations.
Yep.
And if you set an expectation that you can do X, Y, or Z in a certain way, they're always going to come back. Like if you do it enough times, they're just going to expect that level of quality from you, which has, from our wolf conversations, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword when you get really good at it. They're like, we're going to give you the hardest projects because we trust you so much. And you're like, no, I didn't want my whole life to be miserable projects.
Yeah. One of the other things we didn't really talk too much about is how much more difficult it is to build trust today in today's working environment
You think so?
than it was just a few years ago, because you may not even get to meet the people you're trying to build trust with.
Say more.
Yeah, they could be always, they're always virtual. Certainly you have less chance of going into the office and building trust face to face, but that's a fast track better way to build trust, is if you can do that face to face. You've got all the complexities and all the support from your body language and having personal interaction. As we get more and more virtual, that gets harder and harder to do over a Zoom or a Teams meeting or whatever. And then more and more, there are certain team members that you maybe hardly ever even communicate with real time, and it's asynchronous by emails or tickets or things like that. So it becomes more challenging, I think, to build trust now when you might not even physically ever meet a lot of your team members or stakeholders. And so it's more important, I think, now than ever to be deliberate about setting and meeting these expectations to intentionally build this trust, and being very careful and diligent about that, because you don't have that necessarily extra level of the physical interaction.
That's so interesting. I really wonder if this is a generational preference, or if this is I feel like I was made to work from home. I personally do not feel differently about building trust in person versus virtually. I work entirely virtually at this point in my career, and I have built deep relationships with people over a distance. For any of our gamers who are listening, some of my closest and most intimate friendships are with people that I have never met in person, or have met maybe once in person, because we spend so much time virtually playing games. Like the person that lives across the country that you game with 3 nights a week is kind of like a coworker, in a virtual setting, and you build those virtual relationships by being like, yeah, can you play at 5 p.m. PST tonight? Yeah, I'll see you at 5 p.m. PST. And I've created these amazing relationships virtually. So I've done that personally and professionally. So I have a hard time thinking that the distance is what makes it hard. I do think there is a difference in how you communicate. But at the end of the day, if the work gets done and it gets done in the way that the person asked for it, then to me, I think you get the same outcome. So I guess I'd ask a question back to you. Do you think that if I set expectations with you and I meet them, but I'm always virtual, do you trust me less because you've never met me in person?
I think it takes more work.
Okay.
I think it's harder to do it when it's virtually. I'm not trying to imply that you can't do it, because you absolutely can, but I think you have to be more careful. I think it's more work. I mean, actually, I'll turn that around to you, Kate, because when we've had quarterly planning sessions, we've preferred to do those in person, right?
Yeah, definitely. Those are fun.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But I think when we do our quarterly planning sessions, that is a type of discussion that is easier to have in person. Like anything that is really brainstormy, abstract, kind of needs space, you can do them via virtual whiteboards, but they kind of are just more fun in person, because that is a place where you're hoping that, right, we're sitting down, we're working at a table, we're working by a whiteboard, we're in a conference room, and we're like, let's take a break for a second. Like, you go get a snack, I go walk around, we come back, we say, I had an idea. Like, that doesn't happen as much in a virtual type of planning and brainstorm session. But for day-to-day deliverables at work, that type of thought usually isn't required. And I guess as somebody who, whenever they were like, let's return to the office, I was like, it is not more productive at the office, because all of our work is not that, because a chunk of it is that and the rest of it is execution. And so I'm like, no, it's actually like you're not more productive at work. You're just not good at planning and then executing work.
I'm not knocking remote work. I love it.
I know. I'm like, but I'm just explaining where like my passionate like objection comes from. I'm
Yeah.
like that's good for that type of work, but I don't know if that makes me trust you more. Is I think what I'd say. Like I think it's like an apples and oranges question.
I will absolutely die on the sword that it is easier and faster to build trust with somebody when you can meet them in person
Okay.
than virtually. And I'm not saying you can't do it virtually,
Interesting.
because you absolutely can. You can do a really good job of it. I think the more virtual you are, the less opportunities for interactions that you have, and the further those are away, maybe the more work and more careful you have to be about that. That's what I'm trying to get at.
It's so funny. There's a part of me, in the way that we describe trust in this episode, there is a part of me that thinks that it is easier to build trust virtually when you are doing execution-based work. Because
Really?
yes, because it's like, Kim, can you do this thing? Can you get it to me by this day? You say yes, by Friday. I say, great. You give it to me on Friday. My dreams have come true. That's all I wanted. I didn't need anything else from you. And you didn't have to do anything else. You didn't have to like show up in a certain outfit at the office or like crack a joke in the water cooler line. All you had to do was deliver the thing that I asked for. So I do think there's like there's a certain level at which that trust, I think you need to see somebody in person. I think the further away you move from day-to-day execution to more like brain trust, executive, strategic planning, I do think the further away from day-to-day, easy to execute tasks towards that higher level thinking, I think the higher level thinking is harder to build trust with virtually. I think I agree with that. Like if I wanted to bring somebody on as a CTO for my company, I would want to meet them in person. But I think that's because I'm asking for that type of trust, I think, is different than, it's like I need to know who you are as a whole person to like really go in with, like, you know, you hire a CTO, you give them equity in your company, it's a bigger stakes interaction. But for like, you know, I want somebody who'll go through my email, help me do my like calendar setting, whatnot, is easy, in my opinion, to build trust virtually. So that's, I think, the scale that it's on. All right, I didn't know we were going to go here. This is so fun.
Me neither. This is good. Listeners, you should ping us on LinkedIn. We'll post this and we'd like to get your thoughts. Where do you stand?
You know, and I think to relate this back to a project, right? Coming into a broken project, right? Like something that's not going well, much harder to build trust virtually.
Oh, yeah.
Because what, like that person who hired you was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Whereas, you know, in our episode Condition Red, where you were in the fishbowl, they could see what you were doing 100% of the time. And if you were just, this wasn't the times whenever that happened for you, but like if you were just sitting there on your phone, like playing Snake, they would be like, well, I don't think this man is going to fix my problem. So like a little bit cultural and age related, because they're like, I'm used to seeing my people do those things. So yeah, so I didn't realize these things were so intertwined, but they are for me.
Yeah. And I also kind of draw a line to a parallel thing that goes on where building trust and relationships quickly and efficiently is critical to success with your sales calls.
Mm-hmm.
And you can absolutely, I mean, we've been doing it for years and years and years, building good relationships and doing good sales virtually. But when you can get on site and see somebody eye to eye, and as somebody used to work with, used to always say kneecap to kneecap and have that conversation with them, you can pick up on more of the subtle signals and build that level of trust more rapidly, I think, in that circumstance. So I know we've had a couple, really interesting opportunities to partner with big companies, and we're like, we're going to go on site and see these people because we've got to do that.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense. That's a very high stakes situation.
Mm-hmm.
That person or that potential customer is looking for, like when you are a large enough organization or your offering is big enough that it requires somebody going on site, right? Like Slack isn't coming on site to sell you Slack unless you're an enormous company, right? And they want to get all of your licenses or whatever, but if you're just like a little rinky dink company who's only going to sell a $15 subscription to one person, like they aren't going on site. But if it's going to be a big investment, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's because that's a way to fast track understanding those things. And the other thing too is because the salesperson is trying to break down, that's an aggressive word, but I just want to say, the salesperson is trying to understand, like, what are all the objections between me and a yes? And a lot of people don't go into virtual sales calls with an open mind to be made, yes. And in person, it's easier to wear that down. I don't say that to say that you have like mean salespeople, but like that's an experience I have seen.
Yeah, a lot of it's trust. As the buyer, I've got to decide if I want to trust this person to trust my key initiative to and
Mm-hmm.
many, many thousands of dollars. Am I going to trust them to deliver? I don't know. I want to see them in face. And then if you're the salesperson or sales team, you are, to close the circle, showing up
Hey.
and building a trust brick. Oh,
Yeah.
I circled back.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. And right to your point, it's not just about showing up, it's also about how you do it. So when the salesperson shows up, prepared, on time, ready for discussion, did some research beforehand on their specific industry, right? That builds huge trust. And all those same things can be applied to, I know we have lots of contractor PMs, consulting PMs that listen, right? You've all experienced that whenever you go to a client, that you've done your research, you've talked to the sales guy before you showed up for your kickoff meeting, things like that. So yeah, agreed.
Should we share what happened a little while later after we published this episode?
Kim, I would love to ask, what happened a little while later after we published this episode?
This topic really is one that's always stuck with me, and I ended up pitching and delivering a TEDx talk on it.
Yay!
It was amazing. It's kind of one of those cool things you think, I could never do that, but then, why not? So I pitched it, got a little help pitching it, and got to go deliver it at UNC Pembroke a couple of years ago. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had.
That's so cool. And how was it received?
It was really good. It was a smaller audience because it was when you have a newer TEDx event, they limit the number of people you can have in the in-person audience. So it wasn't a huge audience, but they were really engaged. And it was really so cool to go on the stage and stand on that big red dot and give the talk. It was a little scary because you've got to memorize the whole thing, and memorizing 18 minutes of talking, that's a lot more memorization than you probably think. It's a lot.
Because don't they require that, like, this is the script and this is what you're going to say? You're not supposed to improv anything on the day?
They don't want you to improv anything. Of course, if you go a couple words off, they're not going to throw you off the stage, but they want a verbatim script and they scrutinize it and they give you feedback. And yeah, so it's a whole thing. But yeah, it was a really amazing opportunity and a great event.
I'm so excited that you got to share Trust Bricks with more people.
Yeah, and my video is on the official TED YouTube channel, so we'll share the link in the show notes, so you can go check it out and give me a thumbs up if you like.
See Kib's TEDx talk.
And I guess one of my favorite things of doing the talk was it actually gave me a chance to dig a little deeper than we did for this episode. And I had three main takeaways I did in my TED talk, which I think, given the chance to do the podcast episode again, I would have talked about. And the first one is that you need to always be working on building trust bricks. It's every transaction you have, especially the small ones. You're always setting expectations, how you show up, what you do, what you commit to, how often do you commit. All these things, they are always going on in your project. And so you need to be very intentionally and do it. And the second item I talked about was that the fact that trust bricks can be unmade.
Agreed.
You build your relationship with all these little trust bricks. Each transaction, you spend all this time building this relationship. But every time you miss an expectation, you're not just missing an opportunity to build a brick. You are smashing one brick at a time, two bricks at a time. So all that work that you've done to build a relationship, you start missing those expectations. Every time you do that, you're breaking a few bricks and you're tearing down that trust that you have with this person that you spent so much time developing.
It's so interesting. I almost feel like, so I loved in the episode, I was like, what are we building, Kim? And you were like, a trust palace made of trust bricks. And I was like, I love this. It's so interesting. Having worked with different leaders, it's almost like, I think different leaders have different resilience for trust being broken. So sometimes it's like when you miss a commitment, I think trust brick is broken. It's like, I don't know if anybody sees these stupid things on TikTok where they're like lives. And if you give money, there's something that could break that's hanging over something else. And then they'll like, each time you give a rose or whatever, it'll like poke into something to make it break. And it's like beads over a mess, or like you can fire a little laser at a stack of cups. It's wild.
This is what people do on the TikTok.
There are all kinds of things you could do on the TikTok, but this is one of them. And obviously I have watched it enough times, but I think I always watch her from like, why do people watch this? And then TikTok's like, do you like this? I'm like, I don't love it, but why is it happening? My brain can't stop. So there is that. But for those people, they want to get a lot of money. So it's little ticks, like tick, 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 like needle-sized pinpricks that are breaking, the container that holds this thing that could spill. But they're like, I've also seen one where people are stacking up cups for like building like a cup tower. And then if you pay the money for a rose or whatever, it shoots like a Nerf thing. And if you shoot it low enough, a whole bunch of cups will fall over, right? Because it's been shot low enough. And I think that different leaders have different tolerance, or people will say different people have different tolerance for breaking trust. So some people, whenever you miss a commitment, you shatter one brick because they're just like, oh, that was just this one time. And like, that's okay. We'll smooth that over. We'll put in a new brick, because I assume we'll go back to working the way we have been and it'll be fine. And other people you work with, they come in like a wrecking ball if you miss a commitment. They're like, well, I guess we can't trust each other anymore. Like this is ridiculous. The worst leaders I've worked for are like that, where you do something wrong and then they are like, she came in like half of your wall is destroyed in the east wing of your truss brick palace. And so like, I do think that's interesting. It's like a healthy, good, great leader can handle a couple bricks failing and just like be like, oh yeah, but Kim overall is wonderful. Look at this trust palace we've built. I'll just replace those. And then there's leaders that cannot handle that and they demolish a whole wall over a missed commitment. Or they'll be like, there's 3 bad bricks, the whole wall is busted. It's wild.
There are, and on the flip side, there are some people, it just takes forever to make an inch.
It does.
Make an inch of progress. I built 500 truss bricks and I'm only still working on the first layer. Mm-hmm. And it's, some people they're just like, they're trust insensitive or trust sensitive. I don't know what the term is, but
yeah. They're like, this is a big room and I won't feel safe until it's a room. And you're like, that is going to take a long time to make this room a room at the size you want it to be with the amount of things I have to do to build these walls up to that height. And they're like, yeah, do it. And you're like, ugh, okay.
Yeah. And the third item that I had take away from my TEDx talk was it was a personal realization for me, is the fact that in any relationship, you are always building trust bricks or tearing them down, whether you're aware of it or not. Because if you expect me to go do something, if I haven't actively set an expectation, where is the expectation coming from? Well, you're making it up in your mind. How am I going to meet an expectation that you set in your mind? Well, I'm probably not going to, and I'm probably going to let you down. And so it's valuable for us to realize that everything we do, I'm reinforcing this idea that you have that you can trust me or not trust me. And so we need to be really careful about how we do that and be verbal or expressive about, hey, I'm going to have this to you, and here's when I'm going to do it, rather than let you make up your own expectation of how, when, or what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Gosh, are you familiar with I think it's the Gottman Institute?
I think I've heard of it.
They do human relationships, like marriage.
Okay.
They're interested in long-term marriage type relationships. But I'm pretty sure it's them that has the concept of, they call them bids for connection in a relationship. So like if you and I are in a marriage and I come home from work and I say, oh, I had such a rough day. Like I am bidding for your attention. Oh. And if you are a bad married partner, you say, cool, and walk away or whatever. I guess if you're terrible, you say, I don't give a crap about that, and then walk away. But if you are a good partner, like I've bid like, I had a hard day. And then you could say, oh, I'd like to hear about that. And we are connecting. And then they talk about your like emotional bank account, right? As like deposits. So you saying, I'd like to hear about that puts a deposit in my emotional bank account, right? Because we have a healthy relationship. We keep putting deposits in bank accounts so that whenever something hard or sad is happening in your life and you don't have the same level of energy or engagement or commitment, you can draw from the deposits, right? You could say, hey, I still love you, even though you can't, like, I had a hard day. Like, I had an exhausting day. I'm so sorry. I got to lay on this couch. And it's like, okay, like you have been so good to me for so many other days. You can have a couch day. But I think it's so interesting because I don't remember if it was the same book, but there was like one other book I read that's these concepts all kind of overlap with me, which said that for every negative interaction, you need 5 positive ones. It's somewhere between 3 to 5 positive ones. And I genuinely don't remember if that was a business book or a relationship book because they're kind of similar. Anyhow, there is a ratio within you have to exist between bad interactions and good ones. So you could like for your trust brick, as we build, like there could be a ratio of like once if you were to exceed a certain amount of broken bricks, that's the point at which it's like, oh, the whole thing is shaky. So I wish I had I didn't come prepared. So you can find me to be a bad person for this.
I'll let you have that brick. That's okay.
Thank you so much. Gosh, I can picture the book too. Like I could picture it, but I don't know which one it was that I read. But yeah, like you can add and take away trust bricks all the time. That's what this reminds me of. It's like a bank account. It's like this ongoing ratio because it's a relationship that you're both taking care of. It's like a living thing as opposed to something you build once and then walk away from.
Oh yeah, I think it's always living. And I can see that. Yeah, for every trust brick that you break, you've got to rebuild it with 5 or something. We build 1 and then break 5 at a time, something like that. I can see that.
Yeah.
But so this idea, I think it's so good that Brene Brown tried to steal it.
Are you sure? Because what I just told you is there's a lot of people have been researching this stuff. So
no, I'm being funny just because I know that she's
don't
your
you
favorite.
dare come for my lady. Don't you come for her.
So, Brene Brown is brilliant if she's listening, which she's probably not.
That'd be crazy.
She's awesome.
Hi, Brene.
But no, I saw Brene Brown on Diary of a CEO. It's kind of clickbaity, so I don't always go there. But I saw, Brene Brown. Kate's a huge fan. Let's see what Brene Brown has to say. And Brene Brown told a story, something about her daughter and her relationship with her friends and how she trusted some but didn't trust any. And the way she described it was, it's like a marble jar. You've got a jar, and when somebody does something that helps you build trust, you put another marble in the jar. So she used marbles instead of bricks, but
yeah,
same kind of idea.
Yeah. People love the marble jar analogy in general. Like it's such a good visual. I've also heard marble jars for like, what is your life made of? And like, right. And so like big marbles are things like your family or your close friendships or like pets that are important to you, things like that. And then it's like, is the jar full? And they're like, well, you could get small marbles in there. You could get sand in there. You could get water in there. And like, what does a full jar look like? I have heard. Yeah, people love marbles in a jar.
Dude, yeah. You got to put the big marbles in or big rocks in before you put the small rocks.
Yep. And how like you prioritize things. Yep. But if you put the sand in first, then there's no room for all your big marbles or whatever.
You know what? I'll take bricks and I'll put as many in there as I want. I'll smash that jar if I have to.
Gonna have a really big jar for all those bricks, Kim.
I'm gonna smash that jar to bits and I'll use as many bricks as I damn well please.
Very good. That's good. I like that.
And that's how you build trust. You take your bricks and you just smash
jars
shit until you get where you need to be.
You're a jar ceiling breaker, Kim.
Right.
But listeners, you tell us, what has it been like for you building trust at work? We want to hear that. The next time that you make a commitment to somebody, are you thinking about it like an opportunity to strengthen that relationship? We'd love to hear from you. Kim, it's so exciting that you did a TED Talk. Where can our listeners see this? What deliciousness will they find?
They will find I think it was 17-minute and 29-second TED Talk. You can search for it on YouTube. It's on the TEDx channel. The easy way to go is I've got a link at trust-bricks.com. That's trust-bricks.com. You go there. I've got a little landing page there and you can click and go straight into the video.
Amazing. I think you guys should do it. I'm a fan of Kim. It's pretty cool to see him on a TEDx stage. And if you want to see your favorite podcast co-host do that, be up there too.
Absolutely. Love to see you check it out.
All right, Kim. I think that's all for today. Cheers.
Yay. Cheers.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you liked our show, please leave a review and a comment on iTunes or wherever you get our podcast. Your review really does mean a lot. And if you want to check out our membership site and all of our cool content there, you can check that out at pmhappyhour.com/membership. If you want to talk to us directly about project management, PM consulting, training, or whatever, our contact info is on our website under About Your Hosts, or you can just hit us up on our Facebook site at PM Happy Hour. You'll find we're really pretty easy to get a hold of there. And that's it for today. Good luck with your projects, and we hope to catch you again at the next PM Happy Hour. Cheers.